The year was 2234. Humanity had built great colonies across the solar system. Cities floated in the clouds of Venus, mining stations dug deep into the crust of Mars, and Titan, the largest moon of Saturn, was home to one of the most important facilities of all, the Deep Space Listening Array. From here, enormous dishes and quantum receivers scanned the black ocean of space, searching for faint signals that might hold knowledge, danger, or perhaps something far stranger. Commander. Raoul stood inside the control center, his eyes fixed on the massive main screen. The hum of machinery filled the air, blending with the quiet murmurs of operators at their workstations. The daily routine was rarely broken. Most days, they detected only static from distant stars or the occasional coded burst from human ships in deep space. But today, something different happened. It began as a faint pulse, a sharp rise in signal strength from the far edge of known space. At first, the technicians thought it was interference from a dying star. Raoul leaned forward as the screen displayed strange, repeating waveforms. They did not match any natural pattern. The signals came in regular intervals, rising and falling. Like a heartbeat. Source? Raoul asked. One of the younger technicians, Leon, replied without looking up. Approximately 380 light-years from here. Direction, near the edge of the Perseus arm. And sir, it is not human. The words spread a sudden chill through the room. The crew had trained for this possibility, but none of them expected it would happen in their lifetime. Raoul stepped closer to Leon's console. The sound of the signal played through the speakers, a distorted mix of tones and strange fluctuations. It was not random. It was deliberate. Within minutes, the station's linguistic AI began its work, trying to identify patterns. Raoul watched as lines of symbols appeared on the translation screens. The first fragments were uncertain, but then certain repeated words became clear. They appeared in glowing letters. Help us, help us. The room fell silent. Everyone looked at one another, realizing they were listening to the voice of something beyond humanity. A voice in fear. Raoul felt the weight of the moment pressing on him. It was not just a mystery, it was a plea. He tapped the console, bringing up visual data attached to the transmission. At first, the image was full of static, but then shapes emerged. The crew saw alien structures, tall, thin towers rising from a wide plain under a greenish sky. The towers were burning. Something in the distance exploded in a blinding flash. The recording shook as if taken by a trembling hand. And then the screen went black. The signal repeated again, the same words, the same fear in its rhythm. This was no accident. This was a call across the stars. Hours passed as the station relayed the signal to Earth's central communication network. Scientists, linguists, and military officials began to pore over the data. The debate started almost immediately. Some claimed it was a trap, a lure to draw humanity into a war not their own. Others said it was proof of intelligent life beyond their borders, and that ignoring it would be an unforgivable act. Raoul remained in the listening chamber. Long after the shift ended, he replayed the signal over and over, studying the tones, the urgency in the alien voice. He had served in the fleet for most of his life and had seen his share of human conflicts. But nothing had prepared him for this, the sound of a dying world reaching out. He remembered his early days as a cadet, reading about the old days when humans looked up at the night sky and wondered if they were alone. Now, here it was, an answer in the form of a desperate cry. The universe was not silent anymore. The next day, representatives from the United Earth Council held a secure meeting. Raoul was ordered to attend via HoloLink. The council chamber appeared before him in shimmering light, filled with figures both in uniform and in formal robes. The head of the council, Chancellor May, spoke in a calm but serious voice. Commander, Raoul, you were the first to witness this signal in real time. Give us your assessment. Raoul straightened. It is authentic, Chancellor. The message is not natural interference. The source is stable, repeating, and contains consistent linguistic structures. It includes visual data that shows destruction of what appears to be alien cities. I believe this is a true distress call. Do you believe this is a trap? One of the military officers asked. Raoul shook his head. I cannot say with certainty, but if it is genuine, then an intelligent species is being attacked or destroyed, and they have no one else to call for help. The chamber filled with low murmurs. One council member, a tall man in a silver robe, raised his voice. We have no treaty with these beings. We have no idea who they are or what they want. For all we know, they could be hostile themselves, and yet they called for help, Raoul said, his tone firm. If the situation were reversed, if Earth was under attack and we sent out a cry into the void, would we want it ignored? That statement caused a pause in the room. Chancellor May's eyes narrowed slightly, as if weighing every word. Your point is taken, Commander. The council will deliberate. When the meeting ended, Raoul returned to the viewing deck of Titan Station. Outside the wide glass panels, the rings of Saturn shone like pale silver rivers, their beauty in stark contrast to the images he had seen in the alien transmission. Somewhere far beyond those rings, a world was burning. He thought about the risk. The distance was enormous, the journey dangerous. Even if humanity decided to help, they might arrive too late. But Raoul also knew that some moments in history demanded action, regardless of the danger. Back in the control room, Leon approached him quietly. Sir, the signal strength is changing. Raoul turned. Changing? How? It's getting weaker, she said. If it keeps fading at this rate, we might lose it completely within the week. The commander's jaw tightened. If they waited too long, there would be nothing left to answer. He sent a report to Earth immediately, emphasizing the urgency. This was not just a message, it was a race against time. Later that night, alone in his quarters, Raoul sat by the small desk where he kept an old map of the stars. His father had given it to him when he was a boy, telling him that space was not just emptiness, but a bridge between worlds. Now, that bridge had carried a voice from the unknown straight into his life. He closed his eyes and listened to the recording. One last time before sleep, the alien voice echoed softly in the dark, steady and unbroken, each pulse like a heartbeat. He did not understand their language beyond the fragments the AI had translated. But the feeling was clear. It was fear, hope, and a plea all at once. Raoul made a silent promise to himself. If the council decided to act, he would go. No matter how far, no matter how dangerous, he would be there to answer. Outside, the vast black sky stretched endlessly. Somewhere in that darkness, a world waited for help. And humanity, for the first time, stood on the edge of answering. The United Earth Council chamber was one of the most secure locations in human space. Built in orbit above Earth, its walls of polished alloy reflected the glow of the blue planet below. Inside, representatives from every colony and station gathered around a circular table. Some wore military uniforms, others formal robes of office, but all carried the weight of authority. The alien distress signal had spread across the network within hours of detection. News feeds showed the strange, burning towers from the transmission, and the public was already asking questions. Was this the first real contact with another intelligent species? Should humanity respond, and if so, how? Commander Raoul stood on a raised platform in the center of the chamber. He had been summoned to give his first-hand report again, this time to the full council. Not just the emergency committee. The room's air was cool, but the tension was heavy. Chancellor May opened the meeting. We are gathered to decide humanity's response to the signal from beyond our borders. The decision will affect not only us, but potentially our future among the stars. Commander Raoul, you may speak. Raoul nodded and stepped forward. The signal is authentic. It comes from a system approximately 380 light-years away. The message repeats in a structured pattern. It contains words that our AI has partially translated as a plea for help. Visual data shows destruction of alien structures, possibly their cities. The source is weakening. If we do not act soon, we may lose it entirely. One of the council members from Mars, a stern-faced woman named Vera, leaned forward. Commander, you have served in the fleet. You know the risk of walking into unknown territory. How can we be sure this is not a lure? Raoul met her gaze. We cannot be certain, but every element of the signal shows signs of genuine distress. If it is a trap, it is one that would require immense effort and coordination to stage. If it is not a trap, then an entire species may be facing extinction. While we stand here debating, a man from the Venus cloud colonies spoke next. Even if we decide to help, the distance is extreme. We would need to commit a warship group for years. The resources required would be enormous. What if we arrive to find nothing left? Raoul took a deep breath. If we arrive to find nothing left, then we will have at least tried. If the positions were reversed, if Earth was burning and we sent our own cry into the void, I would want someone, anyone, to answer. His words made the chamber fall silent for a moment. Chancellor May's eyes moved slowly around the circle. The core question is not about risk, but about who we choose to be as a civilization. From the far side of the chamber, Admiral Sen, an old but sharp-eyed officer, rose to speak. We have a moral duty to answer. Humanity did not climb to the stars to look away when others fall. The first law of the fleet is to protect life where possible. This is no different. Yet opposition remained. Some feared committing to a war. Humanity did not start. Some feared revealing Earth's strength to unknown forces. Others worried that the message could be misunderstood and cause hostility. The debate stretched for hours. Charts of travel routes appeared in the air above the table. Projections of fuel requirements, food supplies, and fleet readiness flashed. In sequence, the technical advisors confirmed that a task force could reach the source in just under 3 years. Using the latest jump drive relays, it would be a long and costly mission, but not impossible. Finally, Chancellor May called for the vote. Each representative placed their hand on the voting console before them. A ring of lights round the chamber glowed blue for yes, red for no. Slowly, the balance shifted. More blue lights appeared until they formed a clear majority. The motion passes. May said at last, humanity will respond. A quiet wave of murmurs passed through the chamber. Some council members looked relieved. Others concerned. Raoul felt the tension in his shoulders ease slightly. The decision was made. But now the real work would begin. Commander Raoul, May continued. You will be assigned to lead the mission. Your record in both diplomacy and combat makes you the best choice for this task. You will command the Vigilant Dawn, supported by 2 escort ships. Your orders are simple. Locate the source of the signal, establish communication, and provide assistance as needed. If hostile forces are present, you are authorized to act in defense. Raoul bowed his head slightly. Understood, Chancellor. The meeting ended, and Raoul made his way through the wide corridors of the station. Outside the viewports, Earth spun slowly in the dark. He thought of the world far beyond. The one sending that desperate cry. Somewhere out there, people, or something like people, were holding on, hoping help might come. Within days, preparations began. The Vigilant Dawn was pulled into Drotic above Earth, its hull surrounded by swarms of drones installing fresh armor plates and upgrading its rail cannons. Supply crews worked around the clock, loading the vast cargo bays with food, medical kits, and scientific equipment. Engineers tested the jump drives again and again, ensuring they could endure the long journey. The ship itself was a marvel of human design. Its central hull was a sleek, reinforced spine with armored wings holding engine clusters. Along its length, weapon emplacements and shield projectors gave it both offense and defense in equal measure. Inside, entire decks were dedicated to science labs, barracks, and command centers. Raoul spent long hours with his senior officers, going over every possible scenario. They discussed what to do if the aliens were unresponsive or if the signal had been sent years too late. They planned for hostile encounters, for environmental hazards, for the possibility that the enemy who attacked the aliens might turn their attention toward Earth. The crew selection was equally important. Volunteers came from every branch of the fleet: navigators, engineers, scientists, medics, and Marines. Each had passed rigorous training and understood the risks. Many had personal reasons for joining. Some wanted to be part of history, others wanted to protect humanity's future. Raoul welcomed them all. making it clear this mission was unlike any they had faced. As launch day approached, public attention grew. News broadcasts followed every step of the preparations. Across Earth and the colonies, people debated the decision. Some called it an act of bravery, a sign that humanity was ready to stand among the stars as a protector. Others warned it was reckless, but no matter the opinion, everyone knew this mission would be remembered. The night before departure, Raoul stood alone on the observation deck of the orbital station. The vigilant dawn floated in the docking cradle below, lights glowing along its hull. It looked ready, almost impatient to leave. He thought again of the signal, the trembling voice, the burning towers. He had never seen those alien faces, but he felt a strange connection to them. They had reached across hundreds of light years, not knowing who might hear them, by chance. It was humanity, and now humanity would come. He stayed there for a long time, watching the ship in silence. Tomorrow, they would set a course toward the unknown. Tomorrow, they would answer. The day of launch arrived. The vigilant dawn floated free in orbit above Earth, shining in the sunlight like a steel spear aimed toward the stars. Its escorts, the Horizon Star and the Iron Wing, held position nearby, their hulls reflecting the pale blue light of the planet. Below, every system had been checked twice, every supply crate had been secured. The crew stood ready. Commander Raoul moved through the bridge, greeting his officers. The command deck was alive with motion. Screens showed final status reports, engine temperatures, and navigation data. Technicians wore headsets, relaying orders to engineering, weapons control, and the docking crews. The atmosphere was focused, but calm. Months of preparation had led to this moment. Status report, Raoul said. Lieutenant Mara, the ship's navigator, replied, all systems green. Jump coordinates set for the first relay point. Fuel reserves full. Escorts report ready. Raoul nodded. Very well. Begin departure sequence. Across the ship, docking clamps released with a deep metallic thud. Small bursts from the maneuvering thrusters pushed the vessel clear of the station. Outside the bridge windows, Earth's curve began to shift as the ship slowly turned toward open space. The blue oceans and white clouds faded behind them, replaced by the dark expanse ahead. Engage main engines, Raoul ordered. The deep rumble of the fusion drives filled the deck. A vibration felt through the floor. The vigilant dawn surged forward, the escorts following in precise formation. Their first destination was a jump gate orbiting Neptune, a relay station that would hurl them far into the outer reaches of human territory. As they approached the jump gate hours later, the massive ring structure came into view. It glowed faintly, its surface lined with control towers and docking arms. The gate's central aperture shimmered with blue light, a stable wormhole leading to a point dozens of light years away. Traffic control cleared them for transit. The fleet aligned with the aperture. Double quotes helm. Take us in, Raoul said. The shimmering light expanded until it filled the view. The moment they entered, the stars outside stretched and twisted into streaks of color. The crew felt the faint pull of inertial dampeners working hard to keep them steady. Then, as quickly as it began, the distortion ended. The ship emerged into a different region of space, far beyond Neptune. This was the first of many jumps. The journey would take years even with the fastest routes. Between jump gates, the fleet would rely on its own drives, pushing through empty stretches of space. In the early days of the mission, the crew fell into a steady rhythm. Scientists worked in their labs, calibrating translation devices in hopes of understanding the alien language better. Engineers ran constant checks on the engines and shield arrays. Marines trained in the cargo bay, practicing boarding maneuvers and defensive drills. The mess hall became the place where crew from different departments gathered to share meals, play games, and exchange stories. Despite the routine, the sense of purpose never faded. Everyone knew why they were out here. The image of the burning alien towers stayed in their minds. It was a reminder of what waited at the end of their voyage. Weeks passed before they encountered their first challenge. While passing through an uncharted asteroid belt between relay points, the fleet's long-range sensors detected unusual readings. A cluster of massive rocks was moving in a tight formation, faster than natural drift. The pattern suggested they had been disturbed by something. Lieutenant Mara ran the data through the ship's analysis systems. Possible microwarp shockwave. From another vessel, she reported. But I'm not reading any active transponders. Raoul frowned. Could be pirates, could be automated probes. Keep shields at full and weapons charged. Escorts, stay close. They threaded through the belt cautiously. Massive chunks of rock drifted past, some the size of small cities. The fleet's maneuvering thrusters fired in short bursts to keep them clear of collision paths. At one point, a large fragment suddenly tumbled into their course. The Iron Wing fired a short rail slug, shattering it into harmless debris. No ships revealed themselves. By the time they cleared the belt, the unusual readings had vanished. Still, Raoul ordered a full sensor sweep. They found nothing, but the experience reminded the crew that unknown space held more dangers than just the enemy they sought. After the belt, the fleet reached the next relay point. This one was a smaller, unmanned gate orbiting a cold, dim star. Here, the vigilant Dawn took on additional fuel from automated depots, while the escorts scanned for any signs of pursuit. All remained quiet. Months turned into the first year. The fleet crossed sectors of space rarely visited by human ships. They passed the glowing clouds of a red nebula, its colors spilling across the bridge windows like a living painting. They skirted the edge of a black hole's gravity well, the instruments humming with the strain of measuring the immense forces nearby. The crew began keeping logs not only for mission records, but as a chronicle of their journey. Aware that they were charting places no human had seen before. In the evenings, Raoul would walk the quieter decks, listening to the hum of the engines and the distant chatter from the mess hall. He knew morale was as important as fuel or weapons. A tired, restless crew could make mistakes. So, he encouraged recreation, music nights in the mess hall, viewing sessions in the observation dome, even mock zero-gravity races in the maintenance shafts. It kept the crew sharp, ready for whatever lay ahead. By the second year, the signal from the alien source was faint and heavily distorted by the distance. Still, the ship's advanced receivers locked onto it, updating their course. The data confirmed they were drawing closer, sector by sector. Then came a troubling report from engineering. Chief Engineer Doran appeared on the bridge, wiping grease from his hands. Commander, our port-side fusion array is showing irregular fluctuations. It's not critical yet, but if it worsens, we'll lose 30% thrust. Raoul turned to him. How long to repair? 2 weeks if we shut it down completely. That would slow us, but it's safer than risking a full drive failure. Raoul weighed the options. Slowing would cost time, but a sudden breakdown could leave them stranded. Do it, safety first. The crew adapted quickly, shifting power and adjusting flight plans. They made the repairs without incident, but it was a reminder that even the best machines needed care on such a long voyage. At last, as the third year began, the fleet approached the edge of the alien system. The signal now carried more static than words, but the coordinates were clear. From the bridge windows, the crew saw the faint light of an unfamiliar star, its glow filtering through the black. Raoul stood at the center of the command deck, looking at the distant point of light. Set course for the inner system, he said. We've come a long way. Let's find out who sent that call. Engines roared quietly to life, and the fleet began its final approach. Beyond the glow of that alien sun, answers awaited, and perhaps dangers they had yet to imagine. The alien star grew brighter with each passing hour. It was a pale golden sun, smaller than Earth's but surrounded by several planets. The fleet's long-range sensors swept the system. As the vigilant Dawn, the Horizon Star, and the Iron Wing moved closer, data began to pour in. Planetary orbits, atmospheric readings, and energy signatures. But something else came with the data: wreckage. Large chunks of twisted metal drifted between the planets. Some were small as shuttles, others the size of buildings. They tumbled slowly, catching the light of the star. The scanners confirmed they were not human in origin. The material composition and design were unlike anything in Earth's databases. Report. Raoul said, standing at the center of the bridge, Lieutenant Mara spoke quietly. Commander, these are fragments of warships. The damage is heavy. Some of this wreckage is still radiating heat. That means it's recent. The crew stared at the debris as it slid past the windows. Even the most experienced officers had never seen destruction on this scale. The fleet pressed forward toward the inner system. Soon, the sensors detected a faint beacon, a repeating pulse, much like the original distress signal but weaker. It came from a smaller planet close to the star. The fleet changed course, moving toward the source. As they drew closer, the surface came into view. Parts of the planet glowed faintly, not from city lights, but from fires still burning. Wide scars crossed the land, as if something enormous had struck from orbit. Raoul leaned forward in his command chair. Bring us into high orbit. I want a full scan. The image on the main screen sharpened. The planet's surface showed shattered. Cities, their towers broken and lying in jagged pieces, smoke trailed into the atmosphere. Oceans reflected the pale sunlight, but their shores were littered with wreckage. This was no natural disaster. It was war. The beacon came from a damaged structure on the edge of one of the ruined cities. It looked like a tower, bent and cracked, but still standing. Faint energy readings suggested survivors inside. Raoul gave his orders. Launch a shuttle. Prepare a marine escort. We make contact. Within minutes, the hangar bay was alive with activity. The shuttle, a sleek craft with reinforced armor, was loaded with translators, medkits, and supplies. Marines in dark armor moved into position, weapons set to defensive mode. Scientists carried portable scanners, ready to study anything they found. Raoul himself boarded the shuttle, taking a seat near the front. The bay doors opened, and the shuttle descended through the planet's thin clouds. The city below was silent. Streets were cracked, buildings torn apart. Some walls were marked by deep, scorched lines, the kind left by energy weapons. They landed near the damaged tower. The air was heavy with dust. The Marines moved first, spreading out to secure the area. Raoul and the scientists followed. As they approached the tower's entrance, a faint sound reached them, a low, steady hum. Almost like a generator barely holding power. Inside, the light was dim. The walls were covered in strange markings, flowing curves, and sharp symbols. Unlike any human writing, broken equipment lay scattered across the floor. In the distance, figures moved. The first alien Raoul saw stood just over his height, with a slender frame and pale, silver-gray skin. Its large eyes reflected the light. Like glass, the alien wore a torn uniform of some kind, with metallic plates strapped to its arms and chest. Behind it, more figures emerged, some limping, some supporting others who were clearly injured. One of the scientists activated the portable translator. We come in peace. We are from Earth. We received your call for help. The alien stepped forward slowly, its gaze moving from Raoul to the others. It spoke in a soft, musical tone. The words strange but deliberate. The translator hesitated, then produced a halting translation. Friends, you came. The alien's voice was filled with both relief and exhaustion. It gestured for them to follow. Inside a larger chamber, Raoul saw more of them, perhaps 30 in total, many wearing makeshift bandages. Their technology looked advanced but damaged, as if they had been forced to salvage whatever they could. Raoul spoke carefully. We are here to help. Can you tell us what happened? The translator repeated his words. The alien leader, for it was clear this one was in command, spoke again, this time more slowly. The translation came through with pauses but carried. Wait, we are the Solari. The Crawl came. Without warning. They burned our cities, broke our fleets. We sent messages, none answered. Until you? The name Crawl hung heavy in the air. Raoul had never heard it before, but the tone in the alien's voice made its meaning clear. Whoever they were, they had brought ruin to this world. Raoul asked, do they still remain in the system? The Solari leader's eyes darkened. Yes. Their ships hunt survivors. We hide, but our time is short. The Marine commander, standing nearby, spoke quietly to Raoul. If what they're saying is true, this system isn't safe for long. Raoul knew he had to make a choice. They could take these survivors aboard the fleet and retreat, or they could confront the enemy now, before more destruction was done. But to fight an unknown enemy in their own territory carried huge risks. Before deciding, Raoul turned to the Solari leader again. "Show us where they are." The alien tapped a panel on the wall. A holographic display flickered to life, showing a map of the system. Several red marks blinked in orbit around the fourth planet. Not far from here, large, sharp-edged ships were pictured next to the markers. The Crawl fleet. Raoul studied the image. They were organized, holding position as if guarding something, perhaps supplies, perhaps the remains of their attack force. Either way, they were close enough to be a threat. The alien leader looked at him with tired but determined eyes. "We fought them as long as we could. We lost many. But if you came with weapons, maybe it is not too late." Raoul glanced at the Marines, then at his scientist team. The mission had been to answer a call for help. Now they stood at the edge of a much greater choice, one that could decide not only the fate of these survivors, but perhaps the balance of power in this region of space. He touched his communicator. "Raoul to Vigilant Dawn. Prepare to receive survivors. Begin immediate medical assistance. And put the fleet on alert. We may not be alone for long." The reply came instantly. "Understood, Commander." As the shuttle crew began loading injured Solari aboard, Raoul stepped outside for a moment. He looked up at the pale golden sky, thinking of the warships that might already be moving toward them. They had answered the distress call. Now came the harder part, deciding how far humanity was willing to go. Above, high in orbit, the Vigilant Dawn and its escorts glided in silence, ready for whatever came next. The meeting hall on the human flagship was unlike anything the alien leaders had ever seen. The walls were lined with large display panels showing maps of the galaxy, fleet positions, and strange tactical symbols. The table at the center was made of smooth black metal, and above it hung a glowing sphere that represented the war zone. The air was tense as both human and alien leaders took their seats. Commander Rayan entered, wearing his dark blue uniform. His voice was steady as he began to speak. "We are no longer just responding to an SOS. We are preparing for a war that could decide the fate of more than one world." The leader of the alien survivors, Elder Vuro, nodded slowly. "The enemy is not only strong, but also fearless. They destroy without reason. But with your help, we have hope." Rain looked at the sphere above the table. "We have studied their patterns. They rely on overwhelming force in the beginning, but their supply lines are fragile. If we can cut them off, their fleets will weaken." Captain Mira, one of Rain's officers, leaned forward. "We propose a joint strike. Humans will target their forward bases, while your people lead us through the hidden routes of your systems." Vuro's second-in-command, a younger alien named Ravo, was doubtful. "Those routes are dangerous. Even our ships have trouble navigating them." Rain smiled slightly. "Dangerous for them as well. That is why it can work." The room filled with murmurs. This was not just about survival anymore. It was about taking the fight to the enemy. Hours passed as strategies were drawn. Resource lists were made, and fleets were assigned roles. Human engineers offered to upgrade the alien ships with better shields and faster targeting systems. In return, the aliens would share their stealth technology, allowing human ships to disappear from enemy scanners for short periods. By the end of the meeting, something had shifted. The fear that once clouded the alien eyes was replaced by determination. An agreement was signed, and the alliance was officially formed. In the following weeks, human and alien crews trained together. At first, communication was slow and awkward. Commands were misunderstood, and mistakes happened. But slowly, bonds formed. A human pilot taught an alien how to handle the sharp turns of their fighter craft. An alien engineer showed a human mechanic how to balance power between weapons and shields in mid-combat. Laughter began to replace tension. One evening, Rain stood on the observation deck, watching the stars drift by. Mira joined him. "Do you think they're ready?" she asked. "They're more than ready," Rain replied. "They just needed a reason to believe they could win." A sudden alert sounded across the ship. An enemy scout vessel had been detected near the edge of the system. This was the moment to test their new alliance. Orders went out, and both human and alien fighters launched into space. The chase was swift. The enemy ship tried to escape, but the combined tactics of the alliance trapped it. Alien stealth ships blocked its path, while human interceptors struck from the front. The scout vessel was disabled, and the crew captured. It was the first victory of the alliance. The news spread quickly across human colonies and alien settlements. People began to believe that the enemy could be beaten. Messages of support arrived from distant systems, and more volunteers joined the cause. But in the shadow of the celebrations, Rain studied the captured data from the enemy scout. What he saw made his expression harden. The enemy's main fleet was larger than they had thought, and it was already moving toward a cluster of worlds that could not defend themselves. Rain called an emergency council. "We have no time to waste," he said firmly. "The enemy plans to strike soon. If we do not stop them, the SOS we answered will be only the first of many." The hall fell silent. Every leader understood what this meant. The next battle would not be about small victories. It would decide whether the alliance lived or died. Elder Voro rose from his seat. "Then we must be faster. We will guide you through the shortest path to intercept them. We will fight together." The room echoed with agreement. Plans were made, ships prepared, and crews readied themselves. The alliance was about to face its greatest challenge yet. Rain looked out at the fleet assembled outside the window. Humans and aliens, once strangers, now stood united under one purpose. The SOS that had once been a cry for help was now a call to arms. The Alliance fleet moved through the cold darkness of space, a shining armada of human and alien ships united. For one purpose, Commander Raoul stood on the bridge of the Vigilant Dawn, his eyes fixed on the star map glowing before him. Ahead lay the enemy fleet, vast and dangerous, ready to strike at the heart of the system. The stars outside the windows seemed to hold their breath as the ships raced toward the coming fight. The hum of the engines and the quiet chatter of the crew were the only sounds. Every person aboard knew what was at stake. Raoul turned to his officers. "All stations, prepare for battle. Shields at maximum. Weapons ready. Lieutenant Mara." The navigator checked the course one last time. "We're on the shortest intercept path. Enemy fleet detected at range 7,000 kilometers and closing." The Horizon Star and the Iron Wing formed a protective screen around the Vigilant Dawn. Alien ships, sleek and fast, slipped in and out of the fleet's formation, using their stealth technology to gather information on the enemy. The Crawl, were brutal warriors. Their ships were larger and heavily armed, but lacked the advanced targeting and shield systems of the Alliance. They favored numbers and firepower, striking quickly and without mercy. Raoul knew the key to victory was teamwork, the strength of the Alliance, combining human technology with Solari knowledge and tactics. The first exchange came suddenly. Bright beams of energy tore through the void, connecting ships like lightning bolts. Explosions rocked the fleet as enemy plasma shells slammed into shields. The Vigilant Dawn shook, but its armor held. The bridge lights flickered for a moment. Before stabilizing, Raoul gripped the command chair tightly. "Return fire," he ordered. "Target their lead cruisers." Plasma cannons fired from the Horizon Star, while human railguns launched metal slugs at the Crawl ships. The slower-moving enemy vessels struggled to avoid the precise human strikes. Alien fighters darted in and out, harassing the enemy flanks. Their small size made them hard targets. Several enemy ships caught fire and broke formation. But the Crawl fought back fiercely. Their flagship emitted a deep red glow, signaling powerful weapons charging. The enemy unleashed a barrage, aiming to split the Alliance fleet. Raoul watched the screens as shields around the Iron Wing flickered and failed. Alarms blared as the ship took heavy damage. Quickly, rescue teams ready to launch repair drones and medical shuttles. "We can't lose the Iron Wing," Raoul said. "Keep the escorts tight." The battle raged for hours. Maneuvers became faster and more complex. The commanders used every trick they knew: feints, ambushes, and coordinated strikes. The Solari's knowledge of their home system allowed the Alliance to use asteroid fields and gravity wells for cover. One moment stood out. An enemy cruiser was about to fire on a group of injured Solari ships retreating to the fleet. Without hesitation, a squadron of human fighters swept in, drawing enemy fire and protecting the vulnerable ships. Raoul watched the pilot's courage through the tactical display and felt a surge of pride. This was more than war. This was humanity standing as defenders of life. As the battle wore on, the tide began to turn. The combined firepower of the Alliance started to break through the crawl lines. More enemy ships exploded, their wreckage scattering in the black. Finally, the crawl flagship, the largest ship on the field, was isolated. It moved erratically, shields flickering under constant assault. Raoul gave the order. Focus all fire on the flagship. Target its power core. Cannons and missiles converged on the enemy's heart. The flagship's energy reserves drained rapidly. Suddenly, a massive explosion erupted, sending a shockwave through space. The enemy fleet faltered, then began to retreat in disorder. Cheers erupted across the Alliance ships. The battle was won. But Raoul did not celebrate. He knew this was only the beginning. The crawl would regroup, and the fight would continue. Still, this victory gave hope. Later, as the crew tended to the wounded and repaired the ships, Raoul stood on the observation deck. The stars were calm again, but the scars of battle remained. Beside him, Elder Voros spoke quietly. "You have saved my people. The crawl will think twice before attacking again." Raoul nodded. "We answered your SOS with more than words. We stood with you in battle." The alliance between humanity and the Solari had been tested in fire. It was strong now, ready for whatever came next. Raoul looked up at the vast sky. The war was far from over, but the future was brighter. The battle had ended, but the war was far from over. Commander Raoul stood on the bridge of the Vigilant Dawn, watching the calm stars outside the ship's wide windows. The fleet was repairing, healing, and preparing for what lay ahead. Round him, the hum of activity was steady, but the mood was hopeful. The Solari survivors had been brought aboard, given shelter, food, and medical care. Slowly, their strength was returning. The alliance between humanity and the Solari was growing stronger every day. Together, they shared stories, knowledge, and dreams of a future free from fear. Raoul met with Elder Voro in the command hall. The elder's eyes were tired but bright with determination. "Your people fought bravely," Voro said. "I have never seen such courage in all my years. We owe you more than words can say." Raoul smiled. "We only did what was right. When someone calls for help, you answer. That is what makes us human." The alliance was no longer just about survival. Plans were being made for rebuilding the Solari world, for establishing a permanent base in the system. Scientists worked side by side, studying the ruins and searching for technology that could help both races. Commander Raoul walked through the corridors, seeing crews of all kinds, human and alien, working together. The mess halls echoed with laughter, languages mixing like music. Children from the Solari were learning from human teachers. The fleet's artists and engineers collaborated on new designs for ships that combined the best of both cultures. Despite the progress, Raoul, new challenges remained. The Crawl were not defeated. They would return, stronger and more determined. But the Alliance was ready. It was no longer just about reacting to danger. It was about standing guard, protecting those who could not protect themselves. One evening, Raoul gathered his senior officers. "We must continue to build our strength," he said. "We will train harder, learn more, and stand united. The stars are vast, and threats can come from any direction." Lieutenant Mara nodded. "Our jump technology is improving. We can reach farther systems faster than before." Captain Mira added, "And with the Solari's stealth systems, we can be where the enemy does not expect us." Elder Voro's voice was calm but firm. "The future belongs to those who fight for it. We have seen the darkness. Now, we bring the light." Raoul looked out the observation window once more. The system around them was alive with possibility. The once ruined planets were slowly healing. The stars held promises of new worlds to explore, new friends to find. Humanity had answered an alien call for help. not with fear or hesitation, but with strength and courage. In doing so, they had shown what it truly meant to be human protectors, warriors, and friends. The Vigilant Dawn prepared to lead the Alliance into this new era, a time when humans would not only survive, but thrive among the stars. Standing tall as champions of life and hope, Raoul felt a quiet pride. The SOS that echoed across space had been answered in wrath, but also in compassion and unity. The story of humanity was only just beginning.